Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening. Hey, Soaring Free. Number one in here, girl. You're number one. All right. Hello, hello to you. And number two. Charlene, you're number two in here tonight. Hello, PG. And little man, hello to you, girlfriend. Good to see you. And C, you are number three. Number three in here. Hello, PG. Wow. Absolutely. Number three. And let's see. Lori, you are number four in here tonight. All right. Hi, PG Mods in Chat. Hello to you. Good to see you. Miss Justice. She's at the top. She's always somewhere at the top. Welcome all. Please remember the like, subscribe, share, hit the bell for all notifications. Amen. I appreciate that, girl. Much love to you. Much love to you. Hey, PG's little girl. How you doing tonight, sweetie? Good to see you in here. Carrie, good to see you. Hollywood, good to see you, girl. Deborah, there you are. Betty, good to see ya. Candy. Let me see who else is in here. I'm heading to the bottom fast as I can, you guys. Oh, there's lovely London. How you doing, sweetie? Lynn says, hey, PG and everyone. Hey, hey, hey to you. Foster, good to see you, sweetie. Hillbilly. Yanba. I can't pronounce that, but good evening to you too, sweetie. God bless. Hey, Pauline, good to see you. Charlotte. I appreciate it. Oh, that is so sweet. That's so sweet. Australia, good to see you, girlfriend. I didn't miss you. I didn't. I just got you right. Hold on, right there. I got you right there. All right. Good to see everybody in here. I appreciate you all coming in. God bless you. God bless. I want to talk about Andrew. I understand. He's going to possibly be going to jail, right? Allegedly, he's supposed to be going to jail. And we know why. Right here, look at this. What happened? And he ain't going nowhere. He never does. LOL. Just done. And besides, I got court coming up in a few weeks. That's why he hasn't been YouTubing it, right? He hasn't been YouTubing it. He's got court. And right here, court for what? Or is there a prize for guessing the right answer? And then Chris comes in and says he helped his son, W, his older son, not Hunter. He's got another son, an older son. He helped his son bully another kid into. I took the word out because it's not friendly, and but he helped his son bully another kid into hurting itself. Okay, into hurting itself. What? This is a grown man. This is a grown man that's supposed to be teaching his children to not bully, right? He's supposed to be teaching his children that bullying is cowardly and that, and bullying means that you got an underlying disposition. Something is wrong with you right? Something is wrong with you. You got something built up that's causing you to rechannel your aggression on other people. And if you have a child, bullying, rechanneling some type of build up aggression onto innocent children, then you need to take your child and go seek professional help, right? Take your child and go seek that child some professional help. That's what you need to do. You cannot have a child. I thought parents just teach their children early on, right? Early on, not to be, rude or ugly to other human beings. It doesn't matter if it's your classmates, your teacher, your neighbors, your siblings, your mom, your dad, your grandparents, aunts, uncles. It don't matter. You teach your children to respect people, to respect them unless they give you probable cause to not honor any respect to them, right? Now, I don't tell my kids that they need to respect people that don't deserve the respect, right? My kids are entitled to their feelings, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. They make their own choices when it comes to who they feel deserves their kindness, caring, and respect, and who they don't. You know, sometimes your children see and know things about people you don't, right? That you don't know. Um, I think we've all been there. I think, each one of us have been in a situation at some point in our life where a neighbor or a family member is all chummy with our parents, and what they don't know, our parents don't know, is we've seen a different side of them, right? We know who they truly are, you know, because they didn't they didn't treat us the way they treated, our parents and other adults. They treated us differently, and we got a real insight on, the real evil them. And therefore, we didn't owe them no respect, right? We didn't owe them any respect. So that's what I'm talking about, you know. But you should teach your children to respect people until they give you reason not to. You don't just go pick on innocent people, because you're having a bad day, or you just feel like you can, or you want to. That's something's wrong with you. If you're picking on people because you feel you can and you want to, something's wrong there. But to have some 40, 50-year-old man, I ain't sure how old Andrew is. I haven't ever, you know, I haven't ever decided to really get in this business like that. But I don't know how old he is, but I do know he's too old to be joining in with a child to bully someone else. I mean, that is unacceptable. Okay, Linda says 38. That's way too old. That's way too old to be getting with your child and bullying another child into, hurting itself. That's just totally and utterly unacceptable. That's what he's going to court for. And they're probably going to lock him up, right? They're going to lock him up for aiding and abetting this type of behavior. They're probably going to come in, and assess their home and look over the other children, and possibly if this particular child that he was helping bully someone else is underage, they're probably going to remove the children, right? They're going to remove the children because this ain't a good or safe environment for children to be in. That's what Child Protective Services is going to say. And they're probably going to, be removing some of the kids as well out of the home. You know, when you are an adult, you need to act like an adult, right? You got to act like an adult, especially when it comes, I mean, okay, there's times that, you can act like you're on a playground, right? With friends and family, and um sometimes you might be able to let your hair down, right? um when you're having a cookout, you want to play baseball like a kid, and you want to play football like a kid, and you want to shoot the basketball like a kid. Great, have fun, go at it. But there's sometimes, when it comes to your minor children in your home, in your finances, and so forth and so on, you got to grow the hell up, right? You got to grow up. You got to make sure that you keep your kids in line. You got to keep your kids in line. You got to keep your bills paid up and in line. You got to keep your house cleaned up and in line. There's just, that's what they call being an adult. It's not fun. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. But somebody's got to do it. And because you're the oldest, right? You're the oldest. These are your kids. You were older than them. You decided to have them and bring them into your home. And since you're the oldest, you got to be the adult in the situation, right? That's why you're called, mommy and daddy. It's because you're older and you decided to make a family and take care of everything and have all these responsibilities. And you knew what you were getting into before you got into it. No more acting like a kid. No more acting like a kid. You decided, to leave that behind you and become an adult. And Andrew hasn't done that. Andrew, wants to mentally stay, 5 or 6 years old, right? He wants to stay on the grade school playground, acting up and and doing silly things. And then he wants to go over on the, high school playground, and he wants to do the illegal substances and and do all the bad things. And that's where it ends. That's where it ends. It ends on the high school. He didn't get past that. He went out of middle school to the first year of high school and didn't ever leave. Mentally, he didn't ever leave. He's trapped. He's trapped. He's trapped in a grade school teenage mind frame. Right? Actually, have you seen him? Have you seen him? Like, like he's pint size. He really ain't very big. It's like he didn't he didn't grow. He didn't grow past grade school. Like he got, his last year of grade school is, stunted his growth forever. Right? I seen him outside. I seen him outside with the kindergartner, and the kindergartner was bigger than he was. So I guess he would have to. I guess he would have to team up with someone else if he was going to bully. If he's going to bully, he has to team up with someone else. Right? He needed his son to protect him. If he dresses a certain way, he looks 15 years younger. That is hilarious. See, I like that. Yeah, that's true. That is a true statement. Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah, he is. Short people got. Hey, you guys ever hear that song? Yeah. Oh shoot. Yeah, he's not he's not very big. He's not a very big guy. I mean, I think Allison could have picked him up and shook him around like a washcloth. Right? Did you guys did anybody else ever see that movie? I think it was called The Haunting. The Haunting. It's about this big old house. Put a one in the chat if you've seen that movie. Um, it was about this big house, and there was these people that went into it. They went in to stay there, like so many of them went there to stay, and they were and they was all in these separate rooms and everything. Did you see that? And the guy, they were walking around. The place is actually funny. It was actually a very funny movie, and but this but there was this statue. There was this like this big like like a big fountain, and it had this giant statue of a person laying in the fountain, and one of the people walked by, and this thing grabbed them and shook them around like a rag. And do you remember that part of the movie where they got shook around like this, like a rag? That was funny as it could get. I really freaking laughed. And the guy, and then there was some writing or something, way up high. And this guy's like, yeah, we just go around and carry, a 50-foot ladder in our back pocket. Right? Get it out. I mean, I actually thought that movie was straight. Like, I couldn't stop laughing. I could not stop laughing at that movie. That was freaking funny. And they were all spooked. They were all spooked in there. Um, it was hilarious. But that's what it reminds me of when I see Andrew, with Allison. I would just think that she'd pick him up and just shake him, every way but loose. He's so little. He's so little. And Allison wasn't little at all, right? She wasn't little, nothing little about Allison. But right there, proof. Right there's proof. He helped his son bully another kid. Who does that? I don't even know. I don't even know. That's just insane. Um, you know, I'm gonna tell you there is some unexplained um, you know, very unexplained things that go on in this world, right? I mean, it's like, on the spooky side of life. There is some really weird stuff going on. I agree, Australia. You know, some freaky stuff goes on. You know, I've seen my share. I've seen actually more than my share probably. More than I wanted to, right? More than I wanted to. But yeah, yeah. I could tell you guys some stuff that would curl your hair, totally and utterly curl your hair for real. And it's true. It's like it's true stuff. True. It's the God's honest truth. Um, you know, really weird, really weird stuff. But yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't even know where these things come from or why they exist. I don't know the reasoning for it. Two scary photos of real ghost. I mean, um, you think having pictures of ghosts is scary? I'm gonna tell you something. Have you ever snapped a picture and seen somebody in it that wasn't there? I mean, you know them, and they're alive. They're not deceased or anything, but they weren't supposed to be in your house. Actually, they wasn't in your house. They wasn't even there. Nowhere to be found when the photo got took. But yet they're in the photo. Have you ever have you ever done that? I'm going to tell you that is freaking freaky. That is freaky right there. Is when you capture someone that ain't even supposed to be in your, you know, well, I don't want to say ain't supposed to be in your home because you know them, and if they came knocking, you'd probably be nice to them and invite them in, maybe. Um, I don't know, but you know, the point being is they weren't there. You're having some kind of celebration or something, and the people that are there are gathering together, and you're snapping the pictures, of them, and all of a sudden, you know there's people in the picture that you know was not there at all. Period. There's no way. You took the picture yourself. They were not there, and they were not standing there when you took the picture, but yet they're in the picture. That is like creepy as fudge, right? And oh yeah, I've had that shit happen to me more than once. More than once. Um, to be honest with you. And basically what it is those people they're into satanic shit. They're into satanic stuff. And they do weird shit, right? Um like leave their bodies, right? They leave their bodies. And that's why you saw them in the picture, because they were out of their bodies, um because that's what they're into, that's what they do. And that's kind of weird, for people to practice that kind of stuff, right? It's weird, but people do it. And and that's into that weird stuff. You know, the woo wooers. They're the ones. Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that coupon mama. You was telling me about um picking up some um while you guys were there. You seen stuff that shouldn't have been there. Yeah, I remember that. Molly's. Are you gonna make Grandis a YouTube a YouTube alley as well? Molly, are you gonna put a are you gonna put a badge on Grandis since you love her so much? Molly loves Grandis. I hear they roast marshmallows together. I don't know. Oh, you want to explain that, Molly? I love I love Molly. Explain it, Molly. Right. I talk Molly's one of my mods, and I talk with her. I talk with her a lot. Man, I'll tell you what, Molly gives me the crap, I give her the crap. Right. Grandis is already worrying herself sick with me putting on my this badge today. Oh, Grandis is worried about what's she afraid of? She afraid that badge might turn your head, or to look at something better than Grandis. She worrying that that your badge might get you better looking women than her. You really start feeling the love since you don't know how to give any. Right. That's what I'm wondering, Molly. Oh shoot. Oh shoot. Where is where is Grandis right now, Molly? Where you guys at? Where you, I know you ain't in the trailer because she sold it. Right? I know you ain't in the trailer. You ain't in the first vehicle she had. She got rid of that too. Right? Are you guys staying up in the basement? Yeah. Are you staying at the 110 Ben Hill basement? I just inquiring minds want to know. Right. Just asking. I told everyone Andrew was going to jail. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Andrew is definitely going to jail. That's for sure. No doubt. No doubt about that, Molly. Anyway, we know what he's going to jail for now, right? So Andrew doesn't care about children, does he? If he can team up with his son to do such an evil deed to an innocent child, instead of teaching his son how not to bully, he joins in to be a bully with her. Um, he doesn't care about children. He has no regard for another child's health and well being, right? Absolutely not. So, when it comes to the case of Summer, right? When it comes to the case of Summer Moon Utah Wells, we got we got a dad, right? A dad that will protect his son, will protect his son at all costs, no matter what his son did or who his son might have destroyed, right? If anything, he would have joined in. If anything, if he'd have been in Tennessee when Candace and Grandis and Hunter took Summer to that water hole to destroy her, in my opinion, and that's my opinion. I do believe they destroyed her at that water hole. If he'd have been with them, basically, he would have helped. He would have helped his son out there in the water to do whatever was done, right? I mean, he was helping his other son to to destroy another child's life. So why would he not help Hunter? Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care about about children. That's that right there proves it. This right here proves it. He's going to court because he helped his son bully another child into self-harm, right? Into hurting itself. Yeah, absolutely. So he's going, he's going to have to go to court. If the kid's underage, he's probably going to be removed from the home along with any other kids underage because, this isn't good parenting. I mean, nobody can control. Nobody can control Andrew. No one can control Andrew. He's out of control. He's like an out of control teenager. No one can control this guy into becoming anything other than the wicked, evil human being that he is. He's too far gone. He's just too far gone. There ain't no reaching that. No pulling that back into normalcy, right? There's no pulling that back into normalcy. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is true, Molly. That is true. Um, me and Molly, was talking about something that Candace had said to Andrew. We were talking about it, and Molly was absolutely right. I went back, I looked at it, and Molly was 100% right. And I brought it. I brought it tonight because I didn't catch that. I didn't catch it. I got to give all credit to Molly for what you're about to hear. I have to give all the credit to Molly. Molly caught it. Molly was the one that caught it, and was talking to me about it. And I was like, "Oh, that's right. Yes." And I went back and pulled the clip, and to double check it. And Molly was absolutely. I was like, "Whoa, that's true." So Molly's got a really good memory because I didn't remember on that. And she caught it. She caught it. So hold on, I'm going to play it for you. Yeah, right here, right.
Hey
Here.
Andrew.
Yeah.
My place ain't like the most
Tell me more.
magnificent place in the world, but to save y'all some money, you're more than willing to stay in the basement. if you want to in my house. Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
My place ain't like the most magnificent place in the world, but to save y'all some money, you're more than willing to stay in the basement if you want to.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, right? I know. It was just that was my husband. Wanted to step in and let me know everything's good with little man, so I don't worry. Anyway, let's listen to this.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
My place ain't like the most magnificent place in the world, but to save y'all some money, you're more than willing to.
More than willing. You're more than willing, right? She didn't say you're more than welcome. She said you're more than willing to stay in the basement. So he's been there before, right? He's been put a one in the chat if you agree he's been there before. By what she just said, he's been there before. She said you're willing. You're willing, like you've been here before. You're willing to stay in the basement, like Jose. Jose stayed in the basement, right? And Allison said I heard early on that when he came there with that Penske truck, that they all was staying up on 110 Ben Hill Road, right? So that right there, you know, yeah, he's been there before. She didn't say you're welcome to stay here. She said you're willing to stay in the basement. Like, I know that you don't mind staying in the basement. You did before, right? That gave it out. That gave it out. And I didn't catch that. I don't know why, but that's why we got to keep going back, right? That's why we keep going back. But Molly, was telling me, yeah, that's what she said. And when she said that, you know, I was thinking he had to stay there before, because she would have said, like, if somebody ain't stayed at your place before, you would say, you're welcome. You're welcome to stay, in our guest room or in our basement or on the sofa. And you're welcome to stay here. She wouldn't have said you're willing. Hey, this ain't the best place, but you're willing to stay in the guest room, like you've been there before, and and it's still open, and you can stay there. Um, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, there you go. So he has been there before. Oh, and I got some other stuff. Um, that I want to bring to the table. I got some other stuff that I want to bring to the table too. I mean, tonight I want to talk about Andrew and and um and his evilness that um and his evilness that allows us to know that he doesn't care about children, so therefore he's not going to be any help with the Summer Wells case, when I'm sure he's loaded with a lot of information that could totally help Summer, and solve her case, because his son was, there, and Allison, was there, and they're going to confide in him what they wouldn't confide in any of us. like him and Allison are besties, right? They're besties, even though they're not together, they're besties. And you could tell that the way she was going up on his panels and, and talking with him and talking to him. And, you could tell that, you know, this is, this is evil on evil, right? That's what I got out of it. It's evil on evil. And, you know, and there's an Allison in there. There's an Allison in there that, that we didn't know, right? There was an Allison. There was the Allison talking to, JLRs and Molly Golightly's and and other YouTubers, even including us over here on our channel. There was an Allison that that was hiding a lot of stuff. But if you went and watched Allison on his channel, it's a whole different Allison. It's an Allison we didn't know, right? She said things that were like, wow, I didn't know she talked like this. I didn't know, that side of her, right? And it was evil on evil, basically. And so there's always two sides to people, always two sides to a human, and you best get to know both sides before you leap, right? Before you leap, make sure you know both sides. That's, because you might not like the other one when it comes out later, right? Always heard, if you really want to know somebody, you do one or two things, right? One or two things. You piss them off or you make them rich. One or two. And it's a lot cheaper just to piss them off, right? It's a lot cheaper, a lot easier and a lot cheaper to just piss them off. Then you'll really know what you're dealing with, right? That's the cheapest and easiest way to, to find out who a human really is, right there. Oh, he's holding some shady stuff. He's holding some shady stuff, trust me. But you heard Candace say, you're willing, this ain't the greatest place, but you're willing to stay here. He's been there before. That is true. Good catch, Molly. Good catch. Absolutely. I appreciated that. Oh, he was going. He was acting like he was acting like he was going to take her up on it. When he comes down to Tennessee for Allie's funeral, right? But he didn't ever plan on coming down to Tennessee for Allie's funeral. He planned on getting all these people to support the trip for him, to support him, to support the trip that he wasn't going to take. He was just going to pocket. He was just going to pocket, make up an excuse why he couldn't go once he pocketed. That was when him and Hunter had an outsy, right? Him and Hunter had an outsy because when Allie was in the hospital. Oh, and let me tell you another thing that that me and Molly was talking about. We was talking about Andrew when he had it was a couple months before Allison went, Allison went into the hospital and, ended up passing away. He was on a live and he was talking to somebody and he was, and they was talking about Allison being missing. This is a couple of months before um, she ended up in that hospital like that. Him and this, and he's like, I don't care about Allison being missing. I'm worried about, Hunter. And and I don't remember Allison ever missing. I don't remember Allison. I mean, I talked to Allison a lot, right? I kept up with Allison. I was, she's on Facebook with, Summer's Facebook. And I talked to her. I talked to her, at least once a week or more. I talked to Allie. I reached out and asked her how she's doing, if she's okay. I kept up with her post. I pretty much kept up, with everything going on with Allison. Um, up until she went into the hospital. Until that happened to her, I was keeping up with her, because she had a lot of information in the Summers case, and I was hoping, at some point she would tell me something, slip up or whatever, and tell me something that could help Summer, be found or brought home, or some justice get served or something. And so, but and it's, I don't ever remember her going anywhere or missing at all. I know there for a minute she was having to go in and drop. She got in some trouble and she was having to go in and, do random drops for child protective services and stuff. And, you know, but she didn't disappear. She didn't disappear. She was at her house with Grandbun, even when her kids were gone. Hunter had been placed with Leslie, and Bear had been placed with Leslie's daughter and husband, and True was just too old. Children, they didn't even care where she was, and she was pretty much at the house with Grandbun and Allison all the time anyway. And so I was kind of keeping up with her, and as far as I know, she didn't ever go missing at all. Yeah, and you're right, Molly. He did. He claimed that she went missing, and there's something suspicious about that. And I brought that to the table too because I remembered it. Matter of fact, I had recorded it, and that was, and I was able to find it and pull that out as well. Let me play that for you.
I'm not upset about Allison missing. I'm more worried about Hunter.
Yeah, that's our thing. We're worried about Hunter.
I'm not upset about Allison missing. I'm more worried about Hunter.
Yeah, that's our thing. We're worried about Hunter.
Do you hear that? I'm not worried about Allison missing. I'm worried about Hunter. Allison wasn't ever missing. This was just a couple, about 6 weeks. I say about 6 to 8 weeks before she went, before she went into the hospital and ended up unalived. Right? So what the hell was that about? Why was he trying to manipulate people into believing that Allison was missing? I mean, was they planning something? Was they planning something before what happened to her happened? I don't know. Put a 1 in the chat if you found that suspicious. Because like 6 weeks, six weeks or so later, she falls, hits her head. From what they say, allegedly, she falls, hits her head, goes into a coma, and dies. I find that mighty suspicious. Because she didn't ever go missing. I mean, it's like they were claiming it. They were claiming it before the fact, right? They were like claiming it before the fact. And you know, here's the thing. She is missing, right? Not in a way not in this way that they seem to be talking about. I mean, when you hear them talk, you're thinking missing as in, Nancy, missing as in Summer, missing as in, Sebastian, Jack and Lily. But think about it. She is missing, right? As in, like Cotton Simpson, Leslie, her best friend, right? Like a few other people surrounding this case. She is missing. It's like they were calling it calling it in a different way before it happened. Like they were telling us, but in a misleading way, that she was going to be missing, but not in a way not in a way we thought they were saying. Right? I find that weird, to say the least. I mean, all of these people like to play games. We learned from Don and Candace and Grandis, right? How they like to play games. We learned from Fred Hill how they like to play games. We learned from Jody Sue and Andy how they like to play games. Marlena, her brother, Chad Arnold. We've learned from all of these people how they love to play, this fucking games of, these mind games with people. And that's also a trait. That's also a trait of people who are in, who are in with the cults and so forth, right? People who are in with, worshiping the wrong person. So it's a trait. And I find it funny. I find it really weird how many similarities, these people have to people who, are into, into worshiping the devil. I mean, put a one in the chat if you agree. I don't know if you know anything about how, that kind of stuff works, right? I don't know if you know anything about how these people operate, but I do. I do. And I just find it weird how many, they seem to carry the same traits as as the occult does. People that worship the devil. It's just, they talk like them, they act like them, they play the games like them. They're just fucking like them. And hell, if you're just like them, you got to be one of them, right? That's all I'm saying. I mean, they can be spotted a mile away, because they're all the same. I think so too, Coupon Mama. I do. I really, that's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. You know, I thought that early on. You know, early on, I felt that, you know, we wasn't dealing with a Don, Candace, and Grandis. I felt early on we was dealing with some type of satanic fucking group of evil humans. That's you know, a very wicked bunch of humans. Yes, Allison's mother is still alive, and so is Grandbun. Grandbun is still alive and kicking, and so is Allison's mother. Yes, the only one's passed away is Allison, and I think she'd still be here. I think she'd still be here if they sent Hunter anywhere other than to Allison's house. If Child Protective Services would have sent Hunter anywhere other than Allison's when Leslie passed away, the same exact way, you know, Allison did, the same exact way. I mean, Leslie sick, Allison supposedly sick. Allegedly, Leslie fell and hit her head, right? Allegedly, Allison fell and hit her head. Allegedly, Leslie went into a coma in a hospital, passed away, and allegedly Allison went into the coma and went to the hospital and passed away. Leslie was cremated, Allison cremated, right? Both of them, you know, got put through the, you know, through the ashy process, right? And usually when they put people through the ashy process, they, you know, usually when they do something to hide. A lot of times it's something to hide. You know, they want all evidence destroyed. Karen, Allison's mother and Grandbun, they do not want anything to do with, you know, they don't want anything to do with Summer's case. They don't want to talk to no one about Hunter, nor do they want to talk to anyone about Summer's case. And I tell you why. Because they're scared. They're afraid. They seen what happened. You think they didn't see what happened to Leslie? You think they didn't see what happened to Allison? Do you think that they are not sitting there understanding what kind of grandson and great grandson they have? And the danger they could be in if they don't just stay away from that topic and that, you know, in that area. They're scared, and I don't blame them. I do not blame them. You know, Hunter has access. He has access to these people, and they don't want him. And Hunter is evil and bold and very bold. And he would think nothing of showing up at his grandmother's house and walking in there, you know, saying, "What are you talking to YouTubers about me for? What are what are you saying?" And, you know, and they might end up like Allison. They might, you know, we might hear that they were sick and they fell, hit their head, went into a coma, and now, you know, and now they're unalive and went through the ashy process as well, you know, and they don't want to go through the ashy process. So they rather, they rather just stay away from all of this and leave, and just pray that this grandson don't come through their door, that he goes anywhere and stays anywhere than around them. And and that's a hard thing, that's a hard thing to believe. That's a hard thing, for a grandparent, great grandparent to go through. But there's a lot of them that do. I mean, Grandbun and Allison's mom ain't the only people that that fear their child or their grandchild, or someone in the family, their own family. There's a lot of people out there right now, afraid of their own kids or their grandkids, right? There's a lot of people out there that, that have children and grandchildren and stuff that they pray just stays away from their house. They know what they are, they know how they are, and they just rather them stay wherever they want to stay. They pray, they're like, Lord, please don't let this kid show up around me, right? Don't let him show up on my porch. Paying for a coffin is a waste of money. They are getting, yeah. I'm going to tell you, I don't know. All I know, I don't believe like some people believe in, the ashy process. I don't believe in that, you know, because the Lord said, the Bible says that when the Lord comes, that the sea is going to give up. It's going to give up its unalive people, that the graves are going to give up, the unalive people. The graves are going to open and people's going to come out, right? They're going to quit. They're going to be awake. They're going to come out, just like, when Jesus died on the cross and 3 days he rose again. When the graves open, these people are going to rise, they're going to rise up and rise out of there. And, and be taken up. They're going to be, they're going to be judged up and taken up, right? And so the point being is that, I'm not so sure people are supposed to go through the ashy process. I know a lot of people's kids do that to their parents and stick the the insurance or the money the parents have saved to be put away. They put it in their pocket instead of putting it where it's supposed to go. And and I am personally myself, for me, I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking for myself. But personally for me, I haunt the hell out of my children if they was to do some dirty stuff like that. It would be all bad. It would be all bad. I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to the light. I'm going to stay right here. You don't put somebody's burial money in your pocket and send them through the ashy process, so you can gain off of it. That's bullshit. Even in the 1800s, even back in the 1800s, the poorest people, the very poorest people in this world cut down a freaking tree, right? And they hollowed it out to put their loved one in with a lid on it. and they dug a hole to put their loved one in, and they fashioned a cross together, or they put a big rock for a headstone. They didn't go putting, they didn't go building a bomb fire, right? They didn't do that. They made sure that they laid their loved ones to rest in the ground righteously, and they got a preacher, or if they didn't have a preacher, they bowed their heads and they said some kind and good words before walking away, right? They held a service. And even the Amish make sure that they put their people in the ground, right? There's no sense, in my opinion, for the ashy process. I mean, somebody wants to go through it. I'm not going to stop them. If that's their choice, I'm not going to stop them. It's just not, it's just not my choice. And it's not a lot of other people's choice in this world. Yeah, it says you can't, you were made ashes to ashes, dust to dust. You came from the dirt into the and the dirt you shall return. Well, that means, when they say that, that means that you're to be put into the earth, and the natural process is going to turn you back in to what you originally came from. Like, the box they put you in is going to return to the earth. It's going to tarnish and break down and return to the earth, and the body's going to return to the earth, and there's going to be bones. There's going to be bones in there, your bones. And when the Lord comes, miracles going to happen. And all of a sudden, the Bible says you'll have a new body. You'll have a new body, right? And all things will be made new. You'll come out of there with a new body, one that won't ever die. Everybody's going to get a new body that won't, that won't ever die again. And the sad thing is all of these people is going to get a new body, and they're going to get judged, and you're going to have the goats on the left and the righteous people on the right, and all the goats are going to get put into a bad place for eternity. Like, their torment shall go up, right? The Bible says it says their torment shall go up forever and ever and ever. The torment, so that means that there's no dying in Hades. You're going to feel whatever it feels like for eternity. And that's why you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful what you're doing out here today, right? Just saying. I mean, I didn't come in here, to preach. I will preach a sermon. I will if you want me to, but it ain't what I came in here for. I came in here because, I found it weird that they said that this woman's missing before she was missing forever. And it just seemed like, it just seems like they were telling us beforehand. How could you tell somebody beforehand? It's almost like, It was premeditated what happened to Allison. Like it was premeditated, just like what happened to Summer. It's like what happens to these people is premeditated before it ever happens to them. And that's fucking weird too. That's some scary shit right there. That is some scary shit. Because that's how the cult works, right? That's how the cult works. They pick a victim and victimize it, right? Carry it out. And that seems like what's happening to these people. In Summer's case, it seems like it's what happened to Summer. And that's just, really weird. Star says, I think caskets are morbid. I think they're morbid. They're part of life, when we're born, when we know when we're born, we're born to die, right? I mean, the minute you're born, you start dying. The second you're born, right at your first breath, you're you're born to age, and the more you age, the closer you get to the end of life. That's it. It's just a process. It's just a process that humans have to go through. Unless the rapture comes, it's the process that you have to go through. And when you're born, you're not born to become something in this world. You're not born to be a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief. You're born in this world to understand who God Almighty is, to understand who his son Jesus Christ is, and to understand that you have to walk righteously in this life to get, to win that white robe, right? You earn it by doing what God wants you to do and keeping yourself away from evil and staying good and doing what you're supposed to be doing righteously. Well, it doesn't matter if the whole world is doing wrong. It doesn't matter what they're doing. You need to be doing what God wants you to do. And that's how you get to heaven. That's how you get to live forever. It's like Noah, right? It's like Noah. The whole world was corrupt. The whole entire world was corrupt. God was getting ready to, getting ready to lay it down on them, right? And he found favor in Noah, because Noah didn't care what all of them people was doing. Even though the whole world was corrupt, Noah and his family stayed away from it. Noah and his family kept doing what God wanted them to do. And God said, you build that ark, you go in it with the animals and your family, and I'm going to close the door. Noah didn't close that door. God did. And when that door shut and the rain started falling, those people were still laughing. They were still cracking up and laughing about that big old boat. But when that water started to rise and that boat started rising, well, they wanted to all get on it, but they couldn't. Too late. And they were all destroyed. Well, that's, that's the way it is. And you got to be like Noah. You've got to keep your family. You got to keep your family and yourself away from that evilness. Don't partake in it. Don't get involved with it. Learn how to say no. You know, make sure that you raise a family that prays together and stays together and is, and knows what this life is really about. It's really about doing God's will so you can live forever with God and his son one day. You got to prove yourself worthy, you know? And most people are too busy trying to prove themselves worthy to humans instead of God. And that's what's wrong with this world. That is exactly what's wrong with this world. Is, people are too worried about what other humans think instead of being worried about what God thinks. So, I don't know. I'm worried. Right? I'm worried. I wasn't worried until I hit YouTube. Right? I wasn't worried until I hit YouTube and found out that you have to put on your ninja suit and and stand strong against a lot of people coming at you left and right. You can't be nice. You can't be nice, You're trying to be nice, but they wouldn't let you. So you had to, do what you got to do to back them up and back them off. And, and that worried me because that's not who I was. And it's not who I am. That ain't the person, that ain't PG. The real PG didn't want to do that. The real PG wanted to just help this little girl give information, that I had acquired while speaking directly with, the main suspects and so forth. And I was I thought I was in a place where people were going to be happy with me. I thought that my help was going to be welcomed. And because everybody was out to help this little girl, supposedly, out to solve her case and I found out they weren't. I found out real quick, I didn't know nothing about YouTube and had never dealt with it really. And I found out that, that these people were very bad people, very evil people, very mean. And out for nothing but self-gain, right? They were out for nothing but self-gain. I mean, like it was like being in a pit of snakes over there at Ziggy's. Over at Ziggy's, it was like being in a pit of snakes. And they were all, trying to strike you, one at a time. And sometimes more than one. I mean, sometimes she'd have 10 people up there coming at me left and right, saying a lot of stuff that wasn't no truth to it. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, you guys. I was in a nest of vipers. That's true. And and God led me out. God led me out of that, and he put me, I was determined to help this little girl. I was determined to get out the information I had for this little girl. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I had one person show up or 1,000. I wanted to help that child. She didn't deserve to be missing like that. She didn't deserve to be treated the way these people treated her. This little innocent child, she deserved none of that. And what she deserved was a good life. She deserved someone that really cared about her, that would take good care of her and give her the world as we give our children the world, right? But she didn't have parents that was willing to give her the world. She didn't have parents that loved and cared about her and willing to, you know, walk through hell to protect her and keep her safe. No, she didn't have that. Matter of fact, her parents were vipers. They were snakes. And you know, and she was their prey, in my opinion. She was their prey. And they preyed on her until, until June the 15th, when they were afraid that she was going to, whatever was wrong with her, they were afraid it was going to get them put in prison. So they used Grandis's knee as an excuse to go into Kingsport, pick Hunter up, and go to that swimming hole and do the dirty deed that they done to that little girl. That's my opinion. I'll always believe it. I'll always believe it. I truly believe it's the truth. And they took her back to Hunter's house. They let her lay on a pillow, wet and unalived, through Sonics, through Walgreens, through Sonics, through the grocery store. All of these places, they let her just lay over there, wet and unalived. And they got to Allison's house. They took her inside. Candace got those clothes out of the back, brought them in Allison's house. That's where they cleaned her up, dressed her, and then took her out and staged her up on those milk jugs. That's, and then they took their fake ass piece of shit video down the road from the house, about 8 to 10 minutes from the house, in order to just show that she was with them as they was coming back into Ben Hill Road, so they can pull the abduction bullshit. They knew they was going to have to report her missing, and they wanted to be able to pull the abduction bullshit, as if they took a video because she was sleeping. And there was no way in hell she could have ever had her arms up over her head the way she was pinned in on those milk jugs. No way. Absolutely not. And why law enforcement didn't haul their asses in and arrest them and put them in prison, I don't know. I don't know. Because a blind man could have seen exactly what they'd done. And also law enforcement knew that Candace met up with Chad Arnold down at Fred Hill's house, followed him out of Ben Hill Road, went somewhere, and then returned back to Ben Hill Road, and concocted, gaslighted the boys, and concocted some bullshit about Summer missing. I mean, it's like handwriting on the damn wall in big letters, right? All freaking caps. And somehow law enforcement acts like they're blind to it, like they can't see the truth and they can't prosecute the truth. And and you got to ask why. You got to ask yourself why, right? And I'm going to let you listen to something. Matter of fact, I'm going to let you listen to a couple of things.
No, he ain't married to her, and he's been lying about the pregnancy. I mean, listen, I'm very upset with him. I got nothing nice to say about him, and every time I talk about him, I get really evil and say some really, really evil things. He played me PG hard. He played me hard to the point where
Now, this is when Allison was in the hospital, and they were getting all that money and stuff, and Hunter's card was getting so full, so full that it couldn't take any, that they started, they kind of shut it down. They shut his card down because um he was getting so much, it became kind of suspicious, right? His Cash App was getting so much money that it started to become, it had to be looked into. Um, and Andrew was really pissed that Hunter was, that Hunter was getting all of this stuff, all this monies and stuff, and he wasn't, and Hunter wouldn't give him none, and he wasn't it wasn't personally coming to him. And so him and Hunter had, an outsy. They had an outsy over it. And that's when he came up. I was, getting ready to go live, and he popped up in my backstage. And before I came live, I popped him up, and he said, "Can the people hear me?" And I said, "No." He said, "Good." And this is, this is the conversation we had. Backstage before I came live that night, and you can tell he's pissed. He's pissed at Hunter. Just listen to what he says.
I'm taking the fall for this, and it's like, dude, you're not getting it. I'm showing. That's why he's in the system. Is because of his actions. I mean, the whole car thing about him stealing a car with a baby in it. I don't believe none of that. I do believe that he tried to rob somebody for vapes, and that fell through. I mean, the reason why he's in the system is because he's hanging out with the wrong people, doing the wrong shit, and he doesn't listen. Oh yeah. And instead he tried to get more money off the people. It's like, no, bro. And then on top of that, come to find out, dude ain't even his girl ain't even pregnant. So it's all. So that was a lie. That I was. Yeah. Yep. She ain't even knocked up at all. So this whole time, dude's been bombarding my whole family for money, this, that, and everything else. It's like, dude, if you're this broke, how'd you get that new tattoo? But I'm saying, how is she How is she over two? How is she a little over $2,000 in the hole on rent when her rent's $915? But here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh well, you gave them a platform. It's your fault. I mean, I'll take blame that I gave them a platform to speak. But I honestly thought I was actually really fucking pissed off and upset about the whole situation. And then I knew what he was. He tried playing this shit in 2018 within the family. The first year he came up here, after 5 years of being missing from my family, from my part of the family, um, he tried playing that same game between me and my mom. And then, I mean, I found out that he took mom's money, but I didn't think nothing of it, you know, because I didn't hear nothing more about it. And I even told Allison, listen, I understand he's your one and only, but you need to turn him in. And she did. And I'm not trying to put blame, but Allison messed up there and by not turning him in for stealing her money. I mean,
I don't think she got the opportunity. I think that, when she confronted him about her money and told him, she thought if she threatened him up a little bit, scared him up a little bit by saying, I'm going to turn you in. I should have turned you in I should have turned you in on June 15th, 2021. And now, and you just gotten worse. And I probably, Leslie told me, She came here and told me I should have turned you in. She was going to turn you in, and she ended up unalived. And I, and here you are, still in me, blind for the rent money and everything, and I should turn you in. Matter of fact, I think I might just do so. And I think that's when she met her demise. I think Leslie met her demise when she went over to Allison's and said, I'm going to law enforcement if you don't. And, they had that big thing, that big blow up about law enforcement. And Leslie came up unalived. I thought that was really weird, that she came up, she didn't even get a chance to know if Allison was going for her to go. She was, all of a sudden she's sick, falls, hits her head, goes into a coma and dies. Now he goes to mommy's. He steals all of mommy's rent money. He goes and gets tattoos. He's acting, like he's boss and, and running the show. And Allison, is furious because she's going to be living on the street because of what he's doing. And, I think she tried to scare him up by saying, I'm going to law enforcement. I'm going to turn you in. And I think she got the same thing Leslie got. That's my opinion. Because, she's supposed to have been sick. She fell. She hit her head. Went into a coma and unalived. Right? Went through the ASHI process. Two women don't pass away exactly the same damn way when they got one common denominator, and that is Hunter. That is Hunter. Their one common denominator was Hunter, who was with Candace on the 15th at that swimming hole where we saw we saw Summer playing, and then Hunter go into the water. And the next time we saw Summer, she was propped up on some milk jugs. With makeup on her face, looking like she's no longer with us, right? And Candace taking her BS video to be able to go home, gaslight those boys up, and then proceed with the process of abduction. Right? Absolutely. Yeah, exactly, Chris. Exactly. I mean, no. Like, the probability of something like that happening twice is mother freaking slim to none. Slim to none. You got better odds of hitting the lottery than something like that happening twice. Just saying.
I'm raised to where listen, you get one and that's it. If you go to jail, I'll bail you out once. After that, you're on her rent money right out of her purse.
Oh. Did you hear him? He took the rent money right out of her pocketbook. Mm-hmm. Which was a lot of money because she owed back rent as well. Allison owed some back rent. She had to pay the initial rent and then the partial payment of back rent. So it was a good lump sum of money that boy took. A good lump sum. And Andrew is going to court. He's going to court, more than likely going to jail, because he has another son an older boy that he joined hands with to bully. He joined hands with this other son to bully a child into hurting itself. Yeah, that's what he's going to court for.
And the messed up part about it is, it don't matter if it's a BB gun or a or a gun. The boy ain't supposed to have it being in the system. No, well, you can own a BB gun at 16, but your parents are supposed to keep it with a gun lock on it and in a gun safe for you. Nope. Mm-hmm. And but listen, you seen the dates on those? And you seen the dates on them? I was not itching to fucking blow my son's shit up, but when he sat there and disrespected me like he did, and then disrespected my mom, that was game over. So I mean, he can get mad
That's my opinion too, Anna. That's my opinion too, sweetie. Absolutely.
at me all he wants, but I mean, people are like, "Oh, it's vile for you to disown him and everything else." Well, no, it's the best thing I can do right now is to disown him, because if I don't, I'm gonna be a very evil person. Oh yeah, but here's the thing.
He's going to be a very evil person. He is a evil person. That's why he's going to court and more than likely going to jail, right?
If Alice
You're not allowed to bully. You're not allowed to bully another child, even if even if you're a child, you're not allowed to bully. There's laws against bullying. And there's really laws against bullying when you're 40 and the kid's like 9 or 10, right?
then pulls through this, she's gonna find out about all of it, and she's still gonna cuddle him. Oh, yeah. Dude, they turned around and said, "Oh, don't say nothing about what's going on with Ellie because we don't want the husband to get her money." It don't matter. The husband's entitled to it anyway. This dude had 2 wives in 2 other states on top of Allison. One in California,
That is the truth, coupon mama. That is the truth, girlfriend. You got that right.
Allison, and one up here in New York. To some states, it's illegal. There's a couple of them. Not really many. There's a very few states where it is.
You know what? Chris, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Um I'm going to tomorrow night, God willing. Um Tomorrow night I'm going to bring some information that I found out um that I found out recently, and that could actually could actually um could actually put Andrew as, you know, a conspirator to Summer, what happened to Summer as well. Yes. Matter of fact, a couple other people out of New York. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. I'm bringing that to the table. Absolutely.
Where, oh, well, that's the thing. I had no plans of fucking. Part of my language. I had no plans of producing any of them at all. None. And then, he crossed the line with me. I was willing to let it fly, and then he crossed the line with my mom, and then I said, no, I'm not letting it fly. Oh yeah, I mean, at 2 years old, he walked up and busted my mother in the face for no reason. Yup, when he was 2 years old, walked up and busted her in the mouth, and that's when I stopped taking him every weekend. I wasn't gonna allow that around. I wasn't gonna allow that in my mother's house because I was living with her at the time. I couldn't have that. I mean, this boy's had issues since day one that I don't talk about. And it's like, I don't want to be that dad, but dude, you're turning me into this person that's going to throw your whole history under the bus, man. Oh, yeah. I mean, the way I think of it is when somebody says that. Oh, yeah. And That's what I've done. I'm at that point now to where, you know what, you cross the line, I'm not making no more excuses for you, dude. Deal with it yourself. Oh, he got more than that. His Cash App temporarily got shut down because of how much he was getting. Yup. And it was probably that wonderful influence that Drew married, because he ain't no good either. Oh yeah, and then Toaster's mad at me, and it's like, bro, don't get mad at me. I'm just trying to help my kid. Oh, I just hope the boy's mind gets right.
And that thing that True married is now even closer to Hunter, right? Even closer to Hunter, because it's Hunter is living with his girlfriend and his girlfriend's mother. And guess who else is living with the girlfriend's mother? True's husband, right? True's husband is now with Hunter's girlfriend's mom, which is, supposedly, allegedly getting ready to have a child by him, right? Yeah. So True's kids are going to be Hunter's future mother-in-law's kids, brother or sisters, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Now, remember, you remember how Leslie died? She was sick, and then she fell, hit her head, and died. Right?
Here's where he tells it. Listen, you guys, listen. This is where he tells. He is really upset at Hunter, for getting all of that cash up, right? That cash up, like he said so much that, um his cash app was, taken into question there for a second before it was opened up again. It was getting so much. And that really pissed him off, right? It really pissed him off. And here is where he tells some real truth on Hunter.
Oh, I just hope the boy's mind gets right. Now, remember, you remember how Leslie died? She was sick, and then she fell, hit her head, and died. Right? Um, 2 and 2 equals 4, honey. I understand and I agree, but that also needs to be brought to light. But I'm just not the one tonight.
There you go. There you go. Did you hear him? 2 and 2 equals 4. He said, how Leslie passed away, supposedly sick, falls, hits her head, goes into a coma, unalived. Allison, supposedly sick, falls, hits her head, supposedly dies. They used the same scenario in both of these women's cases. That Hunter was having an issue with at the time that these women just seemed to hit their head, go into a coma, and die. Right? He's with Leslie, and Leslie goes to Allison, says, if you don't go to the police, I'm going to. And next thing you know, Leslie hits her head, goes into a coma, and dies. Hunter goes back to mommy. He robs mommy's rent money, takes all mommy's rent money right out of the pocketbook. You heard Andrew say it. He took all of mommy's money out of the pocketbook, goes, gets tattoos. Mommy's upset. She's gonna try to scare him up with some law enforcement. And she falls, hits her head, goes into a coma, and dies. Just like Leslie did. Both of them was going to go to law enforcement. And at the time, both of them get their head hit hard enough to go into a coma and literally pass away from it. Right? What's the odds, baby? What is the odds? Sounds awful suspicious to me. And I'm going to tell you, his daddy should know. His daddy should know. because his daddy knows everything, right? His daddy knows everything. Matter of fact, his daddy says he knows everything, right? Absolutely. Um, here's another thing that he had to say.
Do you people not think I talk to my son? Yeah, I know his story. I know everything. I knew his story because I knew his story 3 days after it happened. And that's been so with me this whole time.
He knew, he says, June 15th, we're talking about June 15th, 2021. He says, I knew everything 3 days after it happened. I knew everything. Now listen to what he says.
Do you people not think I talk to my son? Yeah, I know his story. I know everything. I knew his story because I knew his story 3 days after it happened.
3 days after it happened, I thought nothing happened. Right there told us. That right there told us that something did happen at that swimming hole. That right there tells us that something did happen at the swimming hole, and he knows what happened, right? He said, I knew 3 days after it happened. Well, I thought, we thought nothing supposedly happened. We thought Summer's supposed to have been alive and well and doing good when Hunter got out of the vehicle, right? And therefore, if she was, then nothing could have happened. But see, he said, after it happened. So it did happen. It did happen at that swimming hole. And he knows it. And him and Allison told Hunter, you keep your mouth shut. That's why Allison allowed them to bring Summer into the house and dress her and make her up and prop her back up in that vehicle, because Allison didn't want her boy. She knew that Candace and them took Hunter and, took Hunter to that swimming hole and had him do something very evil. And she didn't want her boy going to prison. She didn't want her boy going to prison because those two old ladies picked him up and got him to do something so evil to an innocent little girl. She was trying to protect her boy. And she let him bring that little girl in and do what needed to be done to try to keep her son safe, right? Absolutely. And Andrew knows that. Andrew knows. No doubt he knows.
And that's been so with me this whole time. And I ain't telling a damn soul. I'll take it to my grave.
I ain't going to tell a damn soul. I'm going to take it to my grave. I ain't telling a damn soul. I'm taking it to my grave, he said. Well, if nothing happened, then why would he have to take it to his grave? Why would you ain't going to, if nothing happened, you don't have nothing to take to your grave. So basically, he's telling us, yeah, when they saw my boy going into that water, well, something happened. He done an evil deed. That little girl paid the price. And everybody's right. That's why he was shaking, teeth chattering, knees were knocking. That's why he was all weirded out and acting, way out of sorts when he got home, because he had to sit in the car and he had to stare and look at what he did. Right? It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing how the human mind works. It's a very funny thing how the human mind works. When you're just thinking about something when you're thinking about climbing a 10-foot ladder, you know, it doesn't seem like nothing to do, right? It's like I can climb that 10-foot ladder. When you're thinking about it, now you get out there to it. And you look up that big 10-foot ladder, and it might not be as sturdy or as steady as you think it might be. And you think about that. Is this going to be sturdy and steady? Even if it's brand new, you don't know whether to trust it. And it's a little intimidating, but you tell yourself, I can do it, right? I'm no coward. I'm going up that ladder. And here you go up it. Here you go up it. But I'm going to tell you something. When you get to the top, right? And it starts shaking, it starts moving around. And here you're doing your first instincts is to, try to get down as fast as you can. And if you have to, if it's going to go over, you might have to jump, right? And you're shook. If you make it down, if you make it back to the ground, you're shook. You're shook up, ain't you? You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that thing to start swaying and moving, and and you're shook. And I think that's what happened at the swimming hole. Right there, he went out. He thinking about it. He could do it. He got out there. He did it. And then, all of a sudden he realized, that what he did is going to rock his damn world, right? He may go to jail. He may go to prison. This probably more than likely wasn't a good idea. And and then he's looking at this little girl laying all wetted over against the door, unalived, sitting in a car with her, having it time to sink in, scaring the shit up out of him. And when he got home, he finally got to the end of the ladder, and he was shook. He was shook like hell, right? Went running into his room, refused to come out, all weirded up. And Allison was stuck with Candace and that old evil Grandis. She was stuck with them, having to get Summer cleaned up and dressed up and made up and propped up so they could continue to carry out what had already been planned. They had people waiting. They had people waiting at another stop to finish up what they started at the swimming hole, right? Which was Chad Arnold down at Fred's place. These people were all working together to cover this, this whatever was wrong with Summer. They was all working together to cover it up. And if you got that many people working with you to cover something up, then it must be a part, like a fraction, a part of something even bigger and more, more sinister, right? These people had something going that they wanted no one knowing about. And Summer, something happened to the point that she had to be eliminated. So they eliminated her. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. He, Chris, he's not taking the heat. I don't think Andrew would take the blame for June 15th, 2021. I don't think he would take the blame. I think that, I do think that, I think he would try to lighten, I think he would give as much information as he could, to lighten up, to try to lighten up the sentencing that Hunter would get. But I don't think, hell no way, he's going to give up his freedom for a son that, he didn't ever really have much to do with, really don't overly know, and doesn't, truly really give a shit about. That's just my opinion. Right?
Yeah. And I'm hiding his story too. And I still ain't gonna tell a damn soul. I'm gonna take that to my grave as well.
Wow. I mean, he's basically admitting that he knows what went on down at that swimming hole. He's admitting that he knows everything. He's saying, yeah, I know my boy did it. Yeah, I know my boy's guilty as hell. I know all about all of it. But my boy ain't going to jail for nobody or nothing. My boy's going to keep his mouth shut. He's going to do as he's been being told. And he's going to move on with this life and not get it ruined by a couple old women that took him somewhere and talked him into doing something evil. Right? Ain't happening. That's basically what he's saying. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure because, he don't really live in New York. He lives kind of like on the outskirts, like, the outskirts of New York, to my understandings. And I'm not sure that what the area he lives in carries for bullying, for doing what him and his other son done. I'm not sure. But I'm going to tell you, I think if he can make a plea deal, like, make a plea deal by telling them some stuff about Summer's case, like if they're going to get ready to send him to jail and he can, make a plea deal with what he knows in the Summer Wells case with his son, I think he's going to give it up. That's just my opinion. I think he would give Hunter up, if before he would go to prison, even even for something he did himself. If he can use that to plead with, I think he will, to keep from going to jail, because he doesn't want to spend one day in jail, right? I mean, he can't even go to the store, right? He can't even go to the store without a safety blanket, right? Like he has to pack, he has to pack his freaking rubber dolly everywhere he goes to feel comfort, that he's not alone in the outside world by himself. He's real weird. And, so he ain't going to want to go to jail and be in there, he's afraid to be alone. He's scared. He's got some issues. So I think he would. I think he'd give it all up to keep his ass out of prison if they were getting ready to put him there for bullying this child into hurting itself. I don't know if the child did or didn't. I don't know if the child actually did do something to hurt itself. Oh, hell yeah. He's probably going to get some time, but if it would, if the kid didn't hurt himself and just reporting the bullying to do so, but he didn't, then the court might be a little more lenient, put him on house arrest or, something like that. So I don't know. I don't know. What I'm saying is, I don't know if Summer's case, I don't know if he's going to need Summer's case as a bargaining chip with whatever he's done, to get him going to court where he may go to jail. I'm not sure, but if he does need it, it's in his pocket, right? If he does need it, it's definitely in his pocket. No, I think he knows. I think he knows. And I'll tell you why I think he knows. It's because he was really on to Allison. He was really on to Allison about keeping Hunter's mouth shut. And he was also, calling and, overly, excessively, keep in contact with Hunter and reminding Hunter, what prison's like and that he don't want to end up there. So keep your mouth shut. He was diligent. He was diligent on, getting Hunter past wanting to tell on himself. Remember, Hunter came out and he was like, remember he came out and he was talking about, what is he supposed to do? Just live the rest of his life with this stuff. And, remember that? Remember he came out, he was he wanted to tell. He wanted it to, be out here in the open so he don't have to, feel trapped with it anymore. And, and Allison and Andrew and some others, was really giving him a lot of attention and keeping his mouth shut, and you know, yeah, he Hunter, came out and, you know, damn near had a breakdown, had a, you know, a big Facebook breakdown, you know, and everything was good with him and his girlfriend. Everything was good in his life. There was no reason other than June 15th, 2021. There was no other reason for him to break down like that. And I believe that's what he was talking about. He was talking about, the swimming hole. He was talking about what conspired there, and and how hard it was to have that all bottled up and trapped up inside of him, and having to, and everybody just telling him to live with it, keep your mouth shut. So, that tells me that, Allison knew that his dad knew. These people knowed. These people knew what conspired. And Candace knew. I think Candace is one of them that because remember when Chris was talking to Hunter and he said, "What did Candace say to you?" And and Hunter said, she was telling me, asking me what I said to law enforcement, and I told her about about telling about the twisted tea, and and she said that better be all you told them. Well, that tells us they were more, right? That there was a lot more. He slipped up. He said, she said that's all. That's all you better have told them. So there was, there was something way worse. There was something way worse to tell that he didn't tell. And Candace was reminding him that he better not tell, right? Hey, I appreciate that. Farmer's Army. I appreciate that member for 4 months. Good evening. Hey, girl. Good evening to you. God bless and much love. I appreciate your support for Summer's channel. Absolutely. Absolutely. God bless. But yeah. Exactly. He will forever be stuck. He's carrying around a lot of guilt. He was very young and doing things, grown men wouldn't even do. It's going to take a toll on him. Yes, it will. It will. His life will. It absolutely will. And I'm going to tell you, the older he gets, the more it's going to weigh on him. Right now, he thinks he's a little thug and running around and, got this girl and got the baby and all this stuff. But, in the future when he, when the kid grows up and his girlfriend, is tired of him and goes in another direction, and he's sitting somewhere by himself, in the future, when all of his youth is sucked up and used up and messed up and gone, and he's sitting there, all alone, old and all alone, and somewhere. Absolutely. It's all going to come crashing down on him when he actually has time to stop and think. And that's what happens. That's what happens to people. It happens to most all humans, almost all humans. They build up, they all the trauma in their life, all the arguments they've had, all the things they went through, all of this and all of that, the their ailments and all the things, you know, they can throw it behind their back and throw it behind their back, you know, when they're younger because they got family and they got kids and they got friends and they got work and they've got all of these things to occupy their mind and keep their mind off of all of this stuff, you know, 99.9% of the time. But then when, you know, the kids are all grown up or the family, you know, splits up in older age and they retire and they got, you know, and they got time to be sitting around and actually start to think, you know, about the past and all of these things they've been, you know, all them years of when all that baggage, they put behind them, you know, comes down on them. You know, they just, you know, they just basically have a breakdown, right? They have like a tremendous breakdown. And they're like, it bothers them more than it ever bothered them in their life, right? It's all on them. And you know, and they don't know what to do with it all. They, you know, it's consuming them. It starts consuming them. The past starts to haunt and consume them like it hasn't ever done before. And you know, there's no explanation. There's no explanation for why this happens to people. You think throwing it behind them, you know, they just move on and keep moving on and keep moving, and that's where it would be. And even when they're retired, they keep throwing it behind more behind them, right? But that ain't how it works. That isn't how it works. See, the reason that all of everything you throw behind you ends up crashing down on you is because you didn't face it. The reason that you're sitting there and you're having a lot of issues with it is because you wish you would have faced it and handled it as it came. And now you see, that you were making all kinds of excuses and this reason and that reason for not doing this and for not doing that. And you know, and it really starts to, get to you because you didn't handle things the way you wished you did. And you know, and you start to see how, you know, all that stuff you threw behind you, you see now you start to see, you know, how important it was. It was altering your life. It was altering your life. And you didn't know how much until it crashed down. And you just regret letting so much go that you could have faced and done differently, and your life could have been better. Your life could have been better when it, you know, all of that wouldn't have been there had you not just, you know, if you'd have just took care of it when you had the opportunity. And people have problems with this. They have problems with this, you know, like they got bullied in school and they ran home, right? Like some people ran home. They ran away from the bullies. They was always scared of the bullies. And when they got older, had time to think about it, they realized that, you know, they lived their whole life afraid and scared when they should have, you know, they should have put on their suit of armor, stood up, and no matter what happened, face the bully. Get the bully out of your path, right? Do what it takes to not be, to feel good about yourself and not feel like a coward. And those cowardly years, it's one of those things they throw behind them, and it comes back to them. It comes back to them later. You know, it's stuff that, you know, it's just it's a bunch of baggage. It's a bunch of baggage that you should have handled as you went through life. You know, you just wish that somebody told you, don't throw nothing behind your back. You know, they tell you, oh, you made your bed, you better sleep in it, right? How many times have you heard that? You made your bed, now you sleep in it, right? You made your mistakes, you got to lay down with it. You know, they don't have no problem telling you about that. But nobody tells you, handle your problems as they come. Right? Nobody tells you to handle your problems as they come. And that way, in the future, you'll have no regrets. Right? Stand up. Always stand up for yourself. Don't ever be afraid. Do what you want to do because it's your life. Don't let everybody else live it and then regret it. Do what you want to do. If you really want to be there for people, be there. But if you're feeling pressured into being there when you don't want to, walk away. Start stepping. Tell somebody else they need to step up because you're stepping down. You know, don't ever do what you don't want to do. Follow your dreams. You only get one opportunity to follow your dreams, you guys. Live your life. Live it. Stand up. Hell or high water. Stand up for yourself. Right? I'm going to tell you something. I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a choice to stand up for myself or not, right? I didn't have the choice to run. Because, you know, because where I came from, you know, your parents told you, if you don't stand up for yourself, then you're going to have to face me, right? Now, who do you want to face? Me or the bully? Well, I'm going to tell you that bully didn't look like much, right? That damn bully didn't look scary anymore when you put it like that, right? I'll handle a bully any day of the week. You just don't want to have to face your parents after you ran like a coward. That's not going to be good, and you're going to get whooped for sure. You know, at least you got a chance with the bully. You got a chance of winning. So, you know, I didn't have that regret. I couldn't afford to. PG couldn't afford that. You know, actually, to be honest with you, I kind of admired the kids who had parents to pick them up, the kids who didn't have to go out there and face bullies, right? I kind of admired those cowards, believe it or not. Because what the cowards didn't realize, here's what cowards didn't realize. Nobody wins in a fight. Nobody wins. Trust me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you got them a little better than they got you. It don't make a damn difference. Your ass got licked too. And you're going to be feeling it. You're going to be feeling, what came at you, just like it's feeling what came at them. Nobody wins. And and that's and the cowards, they don't have to feel that, right? It was all win for them. It was all win for them because they didn't feel nothing. And I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people that have those issues, you know, about being bullied in middle school and high school and even elementary school. And it's something that weighs really heavy on them in the future. That they ran and they wish they'd have done things differently and so forth and so on. This is one of the main things that crashes down on people as they get, as they age into retirement and stuff. And, like I told them, don't let that weigh on you. People who, if you'd have stood up and even if you won, you didn't win because nobody wins when two people swinging at each other, nobody wins. It just, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah, and exes, and bad marriages. Maybe the guy you feel he got better, he got, that that he got the better of you, right? He got the better of you, used you, abused you, and then left you. Or even if you put him out, you know, you still sustained the worst of the whole thing, and all the stuff. And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what people deal with, later in life. And Hunter is definitely going to be dealing with it, right? He's going to be dealing with it. Oh, Jenny, the baby's doing good. I appreciate you asking. I really do. God bless you. Yeah, but he will. He will. And what, to what extent, you know, will he go in the future? How bad will it weigh on him? And where will it push him? Where will it push him to mentally later, later in life? Where will it where will where will the 50 to 60-year-old Hunter, right? Where will the 15-year-old, 16-year-old that went into that water that day, where will that push the mental capacity of this 50, 60-year-old Hunter in the future? And how hard will it push his mental state? We don't know. We don't know. We have no idea. I mean, he could crack at any time. It might not take till he's 50 or 60. He could crack at any time. The only thing really to crack, the only thing that takes a human to crack is every fucking thing that could be going wrong in their life, right? Like that big walk through hell. And you guys know what I'm talking about. Certain times of your life, nothing's going right. You're taking this big journey through hell. You don't know how to get out of it. You just want to sit down or slide down, the side of a fucking brick wall and cry, right? Because everything is like your whole life's crumbling, right? Everything's crumbling. Yeah, you're just dealing with all this emotional shit, right? Your relationships ain't working out. your finances ain't working out. There's nothing in your life working out. You know, you're just between a rock and a damn hard place. You don't know which way to turn or move or to do things, you know, and your mind ain't saying this too shall pass. Your mind ain't going to the Bible where it says, hey, hang on a little longer, this too shall pass. You know, this is just a season. You'll get through it because God's going before you. Jesus is going with you. Holy Spirit's upon you and within you. Angels watching over you. You're going to get through it. You're going to be okay. You're not telling yourself that because most people don't even know what the Bible says. They're not thinking about God in the Bible. They're all self-focused on this trip through hell and nobody caring what they're going through. And sometimes they crack, right? Sometimes they'll crack and they'll tell everything, right? They'll just crack and tell everything. And he may crack at any time. Who knows? You don't got to get old to do it, right? That's where it usually happens for, you know, the normal person that's busy with family and jobs and all the stuff of life. But for some people, you know, a lot of times everything comes crashing down on them early because they lose their job or they're not, you know, or they're not getting enough from their job to be able to live. You know, they're losing their apartment, they're losing their vehicle, they're, you know, losing everything. They ain't got nothing. Their better half is gone. The kids are gone. You know, the better half took the kids with them, and they're just sitting there with nothing, right? Not knowing where to turn, and they figure out they ain't got no friends when you're down and out, right? Nobody wants to be around you when you're down and out. And he may crack. He may crack long before he gets old. Because one thing I know about Hunter, he's not too stable anyway, right? He's not too stable to begin with. So he could crack way sooner than a normal person would. Just saying. That's true, Chris. That's true. I love to listen to your wisdom, PJ. You are a blessing. Hey, girl, I appreciate that. Whether it's true or not, I appreciate it. For real. Hey, I got to give all glory to God. You know, he put me here for some reason. He put me here. And I'm just trying to do my best. I'm just trying to do my best while I'm here with you. So, you know, God bless us. Yeah, I have. I said why Andrew's going to jail. Matter of fact, I'll pop it back up. I'll pop it back up for you guys that came in late. Right here it is, you guys. Right here. This is a conversation. What happened? He ain't going nowhere. Right here, he ain't going nowhere. He never does. LOL. I'm just done. He says, this is Andrew talking, just done. And besides, I got court coming in a few weeks. And then we go on, and they came back and said, court for what? Or is there a prize for guessing the right answer? And then Chris comes in and says, he helped his son, and he puts the initial of the boy, I guess, on W, to bully another kid into hurting itself. That's what he bullied him into, to hurting himself. And if the boy actually did hurt himself, then they're probably going to jail. They're probably going to jail. And that's a very serious crime to bully someone into, into hurting themselves. So, yeah, probably going to do some time. And, but he has the chip in his pocket, right? He has that bargaining chip with Summer's case that he might be able to use. And it was like 8 days ago. He has the bargaining chip in his pocket, that that's why he's been on. That's why he hasn't been on, social media. It's because he's dealing with, the court system right now. But he's got the June 15th, 2021 bargaining chip in his pocket that, he can bargain with to keep from going to jail. I'm sure that they'll make some kind of deal with that kind of chip. Of course, absolutely. Just saying. Oh, yeah, it was. It was you, Chris. It was you asking. Well, God bless you. God bless you. So he definitely, he's in trouble. You can't do stuff like that. I always tell my, I always tell my children, don't you ever start nothing. Don't you start anything. I don't tell my kids not to finish it, but I tell them not to start it. I always tell my kids, look, it takes only one person to fight. It takes one person to defend herself. You better be defending yourself, right? You better be the one defending yourself, because anything else is unacceptable. You don't ever start nothing, because when you start something, God ain't with you. God is not with you when you start it. But by God, he is with you if you're going to have to defend yourself and finish it. And if, and when God's with you, you can't lose. You will not lose when you got God with you and Jesus holding your coat, right? You ain't going to lose. So make sure you always do what's righteous in the sight of God, not in the sight of humans. Don't get with some bad people talking you into doing bad stuff. Because when you get with bad people talking you into doing bad stuff, God's going to depart from you. And you need God every second of every day. So don't be doing it. Don't worry about what humans do. Worry about what God wants you to be doing. That's what I tell my kids, and I got very good kids. Very good kids. No, I can't take the credit for them. I don't take no credit for my good kids because I know God raised them. Not PG, but God. And I thank God he did. I thank God he did. So, and little man's no different. Little man's no different. I pray that God, God has his hand in raising little man too. I want little man to be as good as his brothers and sisters, right? I want him to be as good as his brothers and sisters. Absolutely. Anyway, I just wanted to come in tonight. I wanted to, to bring this to the table and let you all know that Andrew goes to jail. All right. There he is. There he is. Headphones and all, right? He got it. He got his spoon. He's got his spoon trying to dig his way out. As always, Absolutely. There he is, sitting there. Right. That's Andrew. That's Andrew, you guys. He's up, Crap Creek without a paddle. Right. Andrew is up crap creek without a paddle right now. Just saying. That's hilarious. But we gotta wait and see. We gotta wait and see. I want to cover every area that could help Summer. I want to cover every area that might, where I know there's a bargaining chip that can be used to find her, bring her home, and get justice. And I feel that Andrew's carrying that bargaining chip if they decide to try to put him in jail. And I know he's the type of person that would use it. So, somehow, some way, Summer's case, needs to be solved. And I hope to God that something like this is what brings Summer home. I hope something like this, is what allows us to really know the truth and Summer to be found and justice to be served. That's, and that's why I bring it to the table. It's because it's a possibility. It's a very good possibility that, that we'll get a lot of information if the law decides to try to send Andrew to prison. He might use that chip, that good old bargaining chip from June 15th, 2021, to get himself out of it. And that would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. My doctor says that I would live to be 100. And sometimes I wonder. I'm going to tell you, I think every day in this world's a blessing. And I think every day God gives us lets us just know that our work on this earth ain't done. We've got more to do. And we just got to, keep our eyes open and see where our hands are needed. Our kind voices needed. Our listening ears are needed. Right? We just have to, continue to do the good work that God wants us to be doing. Live with open hands, and God will always keep them full. God will always keep them full. When you live with open hands, when you're giving and kind and caring, you live with them open hands, God will always keep them full. Trust and believe that. Listen, you guys, keep those prayers going up. Keep them going up for Summer, Moon, Utah, Wells. Keep them going up for Michael Vaughn. Keep them going up for Sebastian Rogers. Keep them going up for Jack and Lily Sullivan. Keep them going up for Emmanuel. Keep them going up for Nancy. Keep them going up for all of these missing people, because all of these missing people need our prayers. And God put us together. He put us together, a family together for all of these people. And a family that prays together stays together. So remember to pray for these people tonight. And remember to pray for one another. A lot of people always need prayers. Everybody can use prayers. Even if everything's going great, well, ain't it nice to have somebody pray that it continues to go great for you? Absolutely. Absolutely. So make sure that you pray for others and know that they'll be praying for you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Good night, everybody. God bless. Much love.